Convention fever grips Los Angeles. The only major threat to Kennedy's hopes is Senate Majority Leader Lyndon Johnson.
Delegates are meeting with Kennedy right now.
Jack or Bob?
Teddy.
Christ, this place is infested.
Well, in recent times, Lyndon Baines Johnson, the former president, has had quite a time in the movies and on stage. Of course, there was Bryan Cranston's Tony Award-winning performance in All the Way, which focused on the political achievement of Johnson in getting through the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We saw another Lyndon Johnson from Tom Wilkinson in Ava DuVernay's Selma, and that was a controversial portrayal. But now, we have Woody Harrelson, of all people, taking on the former president in LBJ from director Rob Reiner. And this movie gives us more Johnson than we've yet had in either of the other films. We see all sides of him as it focuses on three very different time periods, beginning in the late 50s when he was a majority leader in the Senate and thinking about running for president himself. Of course, that was all derailed when John F. Kennedy came along and ran, and his charisma clearly outshined Johnson. There was a kind of jealousy factor, I think. And then, much to Johnson's surprise, he was selected as Kennedy's vice president and then would become president when Kennedy was assassinated in 1963. And Johnson would be the one that pushed through the civil rights legislation that Kennedy couldn't get through on his own. It was Johnson from the South, from Texas, that knew how to talk the language, and Woody Harrelson in LBJ delivers on all fronts.
We need Southerners.
There's no power in the vice presidency.
Power is where power goes. Guessing you Kennedys don't do a lot of deer hunting.
Now, you might think it's a little startling at first to see him made up as Johnson. The makeup is actually noticeable, and that's a shame. But it doesn't get in the way of this movie at all, because once you're in it, you totally accept Woody Harrelson as LBJ, warts and all, and this movie doesn't stint from showing those warts. I think Reiner has been criticized in the fact for making things too staid, too museum-like sometimes, and not with the urgent need of some great directors who make pure cinema. But I really liked Reiner's approach in this movie, and I loved the casting. Putting Woody Harrelson in there, you completely forget it's him. And it's interesting to note that Woody Harrelson is from Texas himself, but he's dealing with a completely different kind of Texas accent, which makes this role, this portrayal, all the trickier to pull off. All the actors in this are very fine. You'll see Michael Stahl-David turn up as Robert Kennedy, a contentious relationship between then Attorney General and the new President Johnson in particular, considering Kennedy was obviously the assassinated president's brother. By the way, JFK is played in this film by Jeffrey Donovan, and he's just fine as well. I really like Jennifer Jason Leigh, who plays Lady Bird, the First Lady, Lady Bird Johnson, and she just nails it. But best of all in the supporting cast is the ever-wonderful actor Richard Jenkins, who plays Georgia Senator Richard Russell Jr., and he is, while being Johnson's closest friend and confidant, also the one that almost kills the whole Civil Rights Act.
We've got Martin Luther King writing letters from a jail cell. It's an embarrassment around the world.
You submit this bill now, it will never become law.
What are we waiting for?
LBJ shows all of this and shows all of it in a interesting fact-based movie that I think history fans and certainly those of presidential politics will be fascinated with. And the timing seems right for this, with racial strife once again alive and in the headlines in this country. What we went through all those years ago, over 50 years ago, is pertinent once again and made alive once again through Woody Harrelson's terrific performance as LBJ in a movie well worth checking out. I mean, I've been waiting for this for a long time. It premiered at the Toronto Film Festival in 2016, well over a year ago. It finally has gotten distribution and will be in theaters this week. See LBJ, if only for Woody Harrelson's terrific, terrific portrayal. And I say, go.